Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is called Secrets to Marketing Your Business Like the Big Brands on a Shoestring Budget. My name is David Morelli. I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategy and Talent Development here at PaySimple, and I'll be your host for today's event. Two quick details before we get started. First, this call is being recorded as of Tuesday, November 7th, 2017. We will be doing Q&A at the end, and as you look at your screen, as you're streaming along with us here with this webinar, in the lower left-hand corner is a chat box. That is where you can put in your questions, anything that comes up along the way, or comments that you'd like to make on today's webinar. So let's get started. First, before we dive into the content, some of you are interested in sort of PaySimple as a platform, and some of you are already customers, but let me just give you a little brief overview of what PaySimple does. We're an all-in-one business solution that helps small and medium-sized businesses to accept payments, to market their services, and to retain customers. And we work with over 17,000 businesses across the U.S. So we are delighted to have you here today. And one of the things that we hear from our customers, which is the point of this webinar, we hear from them that they would love to start attracting new customers and keeping all of the sort of busyness at bay while they grow their business. And so and many of our customers are trying to attract customers to their businesses, but they have a very limited budget. So to help solve this challenge, we brought on Mike Kujanek, who is the founder and CEO of Magnitude Digital. It's a full-service digital marketing agency with offices all over the country, and he's going to teach us some practical marketing steps to help build the foundations for predictable revenue for your business. So Mike, let's get started. I would love to introduce you and then hear a little bit about your background and what we're going to be covering today.
Sounds great. Well, thank you very much, David. Hi, everybody. Yeah. My name is Mike Kujanek. I'm the founder and CEO at Magnitude Digital. Before we start, just wanted to thank the team here at PaySimple for inviting us to speak with you today. Very special thanks to you, David, of course, Nell, yep, Allison, and the team. And Magnitude Digital has been a client of PaySimple since the very beginning. We've learned to appreciate, of course, the merchant payment platform over the years, and so we're very grateful for your team's support. Just a little bit about myself. I started in digital marketing over 15 years ago at Google. This is when brands were just getting started with AdWords. So ever since then, I've taken on digital leadership roles at large agencies such as Mediacom, at WPP, or iProspect, which is part of Dentsu Aegis. I've had the pleasure to work with many Fortune 100 brands over the years. Some of you might remember the Darth Vader Super Bowl campaign, which my team ran for Volkswagen.
Oh wow, that's
also
cool.
want to.
I remember that one.
Yeah, exactly. That was us. I also want to introduce you to two key members of our team at Magnitude: our VP of Paid Media, Eddie Eng, and also our Director of Earned Media and SEO, Matt Hill. And they'll be available after this to answer questions and to go deeper into any subject matter topics that people bring up. So that said, we'll move quickly over to Magnitude Digital. David had mentioned we're a full-service digital agency. We started Magnitude in 2013, basically with many of the seasoned marketers that we've gotten to know over the years. Like David said, we're a fully integrated digital agency offering services on paid media, earned media, and creative services, based here in New York, but also Atlanta, LA, and Tokyo. And so one of the ways in which we're unique is that we offer our enterprise-level expertise from larger agencies to support startups, emerging brands, mid-sized businesses, all the more something that makes sense here working with PaySimple. So we're here to share a lot of those best practices with you. We're using a lot of the same technologies that the larger brands use. And this is all accessible to small and medium-sized businesses, of course. So one thing that stands out here is that we want to be very flexible. We're focused on partnerships, and that's really why we founded Magnitude. So we're very excited to move forward here and share our insights and thought leadership on the industry. So we'll get started.
Excellent.
We'll talk about a few key things. Number one, more of the fundamentals in digital. Number two, going a little bit deeper into some of the tactics that you might explore for your business. I think more importantly, what you're probably waiting for is more tips from the pros. What works, what doesn't work. And then last but not least is how you can get started, and some examples that you might want to use for inspiration. So, and I think we'll wrap up there with a larger conversation on any questions that you might have.
Sounds great. I'm really excited. I think having been a small business owner, I've built a couple businesses that reached over $1 million a year in revenue, and the only way you really reach those levels, and some of you are maybe not quite at that level and some of you are above that level, but the only way to really reach that level from my experience is to really know how to market your business. And so I couldn't be any more happy that we're having this conversation, because for people to really grow, I mean, it really does take a next level thinking in terms of marketing. So yeah, so let's dive into, I know we have the fundamentals and we have a poll coming up. So this poll, basically we would love to hear from you. Are you currently using digital marketing tactics? And by digital marketing tactics, Mike, you're obviously the expert, but basically, do you have anything pop up on people's computer screens or cell phones? Would be another way of saying, do you already use digital marketing tactics? So if you would, go ahead and click on your screen to see, we'd love to see sort of where the whole group is at. And you'll see, after voting, you'll see sort of the mix that we have here on the phone.
Okay.
So as the responses are rolling in, it looks like a little more than half are currently using strategies, and I imagine that those who aren't are eager to learn how to do it and how to do it well, and those who are already using techniques, I'm sure will be interested in how to upgrade their level of thinking around how to market their businesses successfully. So
excellent.
Yeah, when you're ready, let's take it to the next step.
That's great to see. Okay, we have a lot of content here to go through, of course, so I would say here, if we move through something pretty quickly and you have a question, of course, David, Nell, and the team here, of course, can help field those, but anything that you need more detail on, of course, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help with any further questions that too. So digital's come a long way since the 90s, of course, since everyone had an AOL email address, of course, there have been fundamental changes here from what was Web 1.0, from the classic Yahoo homepage to 2.0 and then beyond. So we're now more mobile. We work across devices. We're more interactive. But that said, with that kind of technology comes expectations from consumers. They don't want to be just fed information. They don't want to go through a directory or so like back in the 90s. They want to contribute. They want to interact and have a conversation with you. And so that affects a lot of the decisions that we make as marketers, not to mention the channels and opportunities that businesses should invest in. Case in point here, if it says anything about the generational and monumental societal shift here, you have over 2 billion people as of last month that are part of the largest online community, Facebook, as we know it today. Or even the fact that 500 hours of content are uploaded to YouTube every second. Or even something as new as Snapchat has 158 years of content that's uploaded in one day. So that said, there's so much every day that that transects our lives here in digital. This illustration here in slide 8 really points that out, and the fact that in the last 10 years alone, we've gone from a few hundred tech companies in digital marketing, multi-million-dollar companies, that is, to over 5,000. And so this graph really is meant to overwhelm in a way, just to show there are so many options here for businesses these days. The question is, where do you start? What's the right fit for you? And there are so many different and unique opportunities here that work. It's not simply PPC and Google and call it a day. There's so many different solutions at different levels. So we look at where brands are investing in digital, where trends are heading, and let's look towards 2018. What's important? What should you think about? Desktop is still relevant, as we can see. Desktop is still growing. Search is growing on both desktop and mobile. And in particular in mobile, where that hyper growth is still happening, it's pretty much equal growth between search and social. And video has been the one area with YouTube that's been a surprise to us, especially in the last year to 2 years. So, the big question is, how does this apply to you? I think we had a poll here, David.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we'd love to know are, for those of you that are using the digital marketing channels, which digital marketing channels are you currently using? So search engine optimization stands for SEO. So that basically says, can they find you in a natural Google search, if you will? A paid search is, does something show up at the top of Google or some other engine? Paid social, meaning does it show up on, let's say, the right-hand side of Facebook? Email marketing, basically sending people messages that are sort of tailored to your business, asking them to take some kind of action or giving them content. Video marketing, you in front of the screen, and other. So I'd love to see what the group is talking about here. So a lot of people are using that sort of natural SEO and then email marketing campaigns. So this is pretty interesting. Mike, is this fairly typical of what you're used to seeing?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say I actually thought that paid social might be a little bit higher on this. I mean, it all depends, of course, on the audience, but it's great to see, almost an equal footing in SEO and email. Email, of course, has been all along around for the last 25 years, but also video. It's also very, I love to see that brands are embracing, who are attending here with online video. So that's really great to see.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, yeah, let's dive deeper.
Okay, great. Well, we have a good understanding of the audience here, and I think everyone's skill set or and level of experience. So we'll try to go over some of the things here a little bit quicker than others and focus on some of the others for value. So yeah, I mean, for those that may not be completely aware, we'll kind of go back to a little bit of theory, but basically how we think of digital is broken out by three different disciplines: owned media, earned media, and paid media. Some of them might be kind of obvious definitions here, but owned media is anything that you own and control. It's your site, your blog, social profiles. Earned media is anything that you get without payment. So think PR, SEO, content strategies, reviews. And paid media is really anything that you're paying for to gain presence. So that'll help to kind of focus our conversation here. So we'll go further into digital tactics. And we'll start here with earned media in particular, and SEO. Specifically, SEO is really fundamental to your business. Obviously, most of you participating today are active in it, so you're already pretty well aware. But it's key to your online presence, your site's visibility across search engines. For us, the key things to think about are user persona or persona development, understanding who your customers are, and then letting that help to dictate what your key phrase strategy is or what your content strategy might be. But other areas to think about are also on-site optimization, technical SEO, for example. We have link building, which has always been a staple part of SEO, but not really as big in the last few years due to some algorithmic changes by Google. But the whole focus that they really want you to do is to hone in on content strategy, content development, to provide real value to the consumer, which goes to the core values of what Google has really set out to do and other engines essentially are copying. So we'll go on to talking about the kind of SEO, and how it compares to paid search. Maybe others are more familiar with PPC and paid search. But the fact is that what you need to know about SEO is that it's a long-term investment. You can't hire a contractor or an agency and think, oh, well, I'm going to realize my investment at least within, a month, let alone 3 months. It might be 6 months, 9, even a year until you actually start to realize your full potential and your investment on the program. So it's all going to depend on
delayed gratification. Sorry, it sounds like SEO is like you've got to put it in today and know that it will pay off later, rather than paid search, which is a little more immediate. Does that sound right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's a gray area for many businesses because it's not something that a lot necessarily understand and not a lot that others see direct result from. But what you need to focus on is setting realistic targets, working with someone who knows or can provide you the confidence to say where they think that your brand really can make a difference. There are a lot of very saturated markets within organic search, and not to say that you can't compete against large brands, but there are different areas and different ways that you can try to gain the upper hand. So I'll move along here quickly to fundamentals of SEO, but you want to think about the 3 C's of SEO: crawlability, content, and credibility. And if anything, you might even say in the last year or two that content is really what has become king. But everything else here speaks to some of the more fundamental parts. So crawlability is tied to the technical aspects of your site and ensuring that those are following best practices and that that you are able to gain the rankings that you're targeting. So I'll move forward here. Another aspect of earned media also is with social media management. You'll see that a lot of small businesses are really engaged with this. Also at the brand, larger brand level, they're bringing on in-house teams to manage social media presence, but also sharing and not to mention community management. If you ask me, community management really is just another form of customer service, but it's also a way that you can get promotions out and sales. There's no reason that social media management can't be transactional, but it's something that every business needs to be thinking about and doing. Okay, we'll move along quickly to paid media, and we'll go over some of these. We talked about paid search here, so I won't spend too much time, but we work with a number of search engines here. You most commonly will think Google, Yahoo, Bing, but there are so many other specific search engines as well that may be a fit, be it that you're a recruiter or that you're in talent management, or there's so many different search engines for different purposes, of course. Paid social, we all know that Facebook ads, but we want to also, as we go along here, talk about what you can do with Instagram, LinkedIn, Snap ads, Pinterest, so on and so forth. I can't forget Twitter, of course. But there are many ways that you can use this. Not everything is a fit for your business, and don't let them convince you otherwise.
Yeah. So Mike, real quick, going back to that slide, you said, "Oh, I'm surprised that more people aren't doing that, paid social." If you were a small business, how would you think about paid social in terms of sort of the landscape and where to put dollars? Because I think that's going to be an ultimate key, right? Like, let's say there's $1,000 that you could spend, or maybe there's only $100 that you could spend. Where would you put it?
Yeah, that's a good question, David. If I'm starting out and I have $1,000 that I want to test, number one, I'm definitely going to Facebook ads. If I think of a few of the tactics within that, number one would be set up retargeting for Facebook. That's your lowest hanging fruit. You're bringing back lost prospects and abandoned shopping cart users. But outside of that, Facebook is so much more powerful.
Just to clarify, so basically if they interacted with your brand in some way before, whether it's your website or something else, it basically keeps it in front of them, right? So it's like, hey, find those people that are already interacting with me but haven't yet bought. Is that fair to say?
Exactly. Yeah, that's that's the basic tenet of retargeting, is using that person's IP address and identifiable information to basically kind of follow them around the web in a way with banner ads across Facebook Exchange or on Facebook.com. That's basically how retargeting works. But one thing I would say with Facebook is that it's become a powerhouse in terms of data, and that is because, let's face it, most people that have been, especially in the U.S., that have been on Facebook have been on there for years now at a time, almost 10 years for the most part. But think of all of the likes or shares or basically all of these actions that people are taking basically equate to social input. or signals that Facebook picks up on. And so when they want to say that, if I'm trying to sell a hair product, right, I pick up on an audience, that has done things that, maybe they visited certain sites or, they liked certain things on Facebook. It pulls together all of those things and says, well, I've amassed, 1 million users here that bought this hair product in the past. These are the attributes that kind of bring them together. And so when you put that campaign together for $1,000 to test on Facebook ads, it's using that data. You have the ability to use that data going back, several years. That is, with pretty good results.
Smarter. Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry to have interrupted your flow. I know we took a little rest stop here at Paid Social. Let's keep rolling on.
No problem. So, for a lot of e-commerce brands here, I'm sure shopping is, and PLAs have obviously been, a key part here. The 1,000-pound elephant in the room here really is Amazon, and the fact that Amazon in many ways has taken over a lot of our budgets. In fact, that's probably not the right way to describe it. It's been incremental in many ways. Our Google investment with regard to shopping ads or PLAs has stayed pretty much the same, but it's Amazon that's really, been the dominant force that has emerged in the last few years. And in an ad, from a marketing standpoint, they've diversified a lot of their ad products, and really, become our number one vendor or partner, that is, for many e-commerce programs. So there are a lot of things that can be done on Amazon. The AMS platform, as they call it, Amazon Marketing Services, is open to, I think, all merchants now. They had Seller Central and Vendor Central. Originally, it used to be just for vendors. But, they have this search product there called Headline Search Ads. If there's one thing that I can say from this slide here, two things. Google Shopping is a must, and Amazon Marketing Services Headline Search Ads, if you can gain access to that, it really is, you're looking at very low CPCs, a high return. It's really been great for our clients.
Excellent. Great.
Yep. We'll move on to mobile marketing real quick. Mobile marketing here really more speaks to a lot of the app marketers, but I'll also say that it speaks to experiences where we build unique landing pages for mobile. A few interesting things that have happened here. Apple Search Ads has replaced iAds over the last, I believe, in the last year and a half. But we've got a few brands, clients of ours, that have started to test that. It's very efficient, very low competition. But again, you need to have an app already in place, and it needs to play an important role as part of your acquisition strategy. So retargeting, we talked a little bit about that, but if you weren't sure on how it worked, there is an illustration here to kind of show you what we're talking about. But what you should know about retargeting is that this is not just about someone visiting your site and then serving a display ad, kind of following them around the web. Instead, we have several different opportunities across channels, multiple channels. So not only just display, but we do this with YouTube pretty successfully, actually. Facebook, obviously, we talked about that. Search retargeting is something with Google, RLSA, which can be they have a lot of unique and special tactics about that, which we think are cutting edge for our clients. We'll move on to online video. There are many ways that you can use YouTube. For us, the TrueView product is what does best. In particular, you want in-stream for search and in-stream maybe for display, but in-stream for search is what has been a major driver for us and for performance. That is, if you're actually looking to drive and capture a click to your site and a subsequent conversion, YouTube can work with a DR strategy. It's not the first tactic that we go after, but it's something incrementally that we definitely recommend.
Gotcha. So YouTube as a value add, not necessarily as your primary, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
one thing would be, once you establish, that YouTube is performing in a certain area, be it for retargeting or be it that you're targeting an in-market audience that is essentially using third-party data to say, hey, I'm a hand raiser here and I want to buy a certain product. YouTube can work for that. If you do get to that level, there are other publishers like Amobi and Undertone who we work with to expand on scale. The last one here I included, because I don't think a lot of brands think about it, but acquisition email for us is one aspect, of course, of email marketing. You have CRM email, you have transactional email as well, and acquisition email is more something that maybe you thought went away with the end of Web 1.0 in the 1990s. But basically, it's buying opt-in data to target prospects. Again, these are all opt-in, legally obtained contacts. And we work with a few different publishers that do this. They work with, pretty large brands. But basically, if you're trying to use email to introduce your product, your service, and get in front of a new audience, this has been very effective for us. And the great thing about acquisition email is that a lot of these publishers are more open to CPA campaigns, whereas your other media channels might be based more on a cost per click or CPM or so.
Excellent. Hey, by the way, as we're rolling along here, I know we're transitioning between sections. So if you have questions, if you're streaming this or listening to this and you have questions, feel free to chat them in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. I know there's a lot of content here, and we would love to answer your questions. So make sure to use that chat box, and let's keep rolling.
Excellent. Thanks, David. Right before we finish the tactics here, this was a section on owned media originally, but we wanted to focus this a little bit more on marketing automation. We really felt that this would provide value here for you guys and for the webinar. And that is CRM or email. And CRM email for us is using email automation with platforms like Salesforce, Pardot. We've seen tremendous performance results with our clients when an automation platform like Pardot or HubSpot are set up to send scheduled email follow-ups. You'd be surprised. There are a lot of brands that don't do that. But basically, what we're saying is, a lot of brands will set up an acquisition digital campaign, like on Facebook, Google, so on and so forth, and they think that's all that's needed to bring the lead to their inside sales team. But usually a lot of people fall through the cracks. A few days later, people are distracted, they drop off, they're not interested anymore. And so the CRM email helps to automate a lot of that follow-up and bring people through. So you can kind of see in the diagram here, there are some rules that you need to set up based on a scoring system. So if someone opens an email on the first receipt, well, they're interested. So they depending on, there are a lot of if-then statements as part of this, but as you can see, it takes a lot of the work away from your inside and in-house sales team to try to bring those people back. So the table that you see with performance before and after, which is a real live example of a client that started out with us, they spent $5,000. They had different varying statistics, as you can see here in performance, but bottom line at the end of the day, when it came to their acquisition cost per member, without automation, they were at $300 per member. With automation, they were able to drop that down to $67, which is incredible.
That's really important. I mean, if I'm thinking about that as a business owner, the more that you can drive down how much it costs you to get a new customer in the door, who invariably will probably use you for one thing, but for many service-based businesses, they'll keep coming back for additional services as well. I mean, that's huge. So yeah, that's great. Yeah. So any of those things that you can keep pointing out, I think would be tremendous. Just wherever people can save money, because this is the shoestring budget call.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's. I think a lot of brands shy away from this because of the fact that there's a high startup cost that scares a lot of brands away. I'll also put this out here. I don't think Salesforce is necessarily the best fit for small businesses. In fact, HubSpot might be a better partner just because of the fact they have better pricing and flexibility. But if you're a larger brand, an enterprise level, and you need the added support, Salesforce really is the better fit. So I would definitely say that.
Perfect.
Okay. So we'll continue now to talk about tips from the pros here. What's working, what's not working. I know we discussed that anecdotally going through some of the tactics, but we'll kind of recap some things here. A lot of text here. We won't go through every single point, but please, as we're discussing this, read through it, and also, after this, I'm sure we'll be able to share this with you or discuss further. If you're an e-commerce brand, there are a few things that you must be doing. This is assuming that, you're running with a monthly budget anywhere in the area of, $20,000, $30,000. A smaller program, but if you wanted and really wanted to do something that was diverse, with varying channels, that is, you have SEO, for example, that is, something that you really should have set up from the start. But on an ongoing basis, key phrase strategies, content strategies will be what keeps the program going. And then, of course, social media management. Always keep that going and consider that not just like an overhead cost, for customer service, but something you use to push sales. In paid search, definitely be across Google, Yahoo, Bing, especially on branded search. Generic search, it's more touch and go, but you should use that for some testing, and that can also be used to kind of dictate what your key phrase strategy will be for SEO. And that's one way that you can kind of minimize your SEO costs. RLSA was the retargeting list for search, which can be used for first-party and third-party data on Google. So again, a lot of ways you can use that to kind of keep yourself in the search keyword auction, on a limited basis and not necessarily all the time. Paid social, Facebook ads, yes, for retargeting, and then also targeting in-market buyers. So based on purchase interest using providers like Epsilon or DLX that are offered through Facebook. And that's all free, which don't let anybody ever say that you need to buy that necessarily unless you're going to a DMP, but that's a totally different topic. Instagram ads can be a good fit. They have a shopping overlay that's been introduced recently, which will make that a better proposition. But Instagram on an organic basis is great. Just keep your expectations in line for what that could do, what that could drive. Dynamic retargeting, of course, you want that for e-com. Amazon AMS, yes, definitely do that. Headline search ads, you want to that's your go-to product. Don't really worry about the display ads opportunity with Amazon yet. That's the AMG product. But as you grow, as you look to expand, it could be something for testing. In shopping, you have, of course, Google Shopping, YouTube TrueView. We talked about the shopping units that can work for that. And then, for email, work with your past customer lists. Make sure you're constantly recycling that, and also adding in and updating new users too. You may want to segment that by different interests, diversify your creative. I think most of you are using that now and following those practices. So comparing against,
sorry, as we're moving along here. Yeah, no problem. As we're moving along here, some of you, this is like exactly the depth that he's going into. It is exactly what you needed to know. For some of you are like, holy cow, I don't quite understand that. So at the end, we're going to make sure to say, here are the key things that you have to start off with. So as we're, if at some point you don't understand some of the stuff that we're talking about, don't worry about that. You can either ask in the chat or we'll summarize things at the end. But for those of you that do need that depth, that's why we're going into that depth as well.
Exactly,
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, let's roll.
Will do. So, there is some carryover between the tactics for e-com and for services. So I won't go through each one in services here. I'll just merely kind of point out, some of the differences. Within services, we thought that, so from the top down, the tactics are relatively similar, different purposes. For Facebook ads in particular, we love the fact that Facebook has evolved so many of their ad units. Lead ads, for example, is one form that, some brands are starting to pick up on. The one thing with lead ads is you want to try to tie the lead ad submission into your CRM if possible. It can be a very powerful tool in that case. I think, for some that are listening in here, you may agree it's not always efficient. They're not the best quality leads. And that's merely because you're not actually putting somebody in front or immersing them in your brand experience. It's just an entry form on Facebook and a submission. But outside of that, I think the other things for services that have been very effective for us are like native ads, for example. Outbrain has a lot of flexibility here to allow us to use some of our content-heavy landing pages. You're looking at CPCs between 10 and 20 cents. And so, Outbrain basically, for those that don't know, it kind of works on a two-step process. You basically bring people through from, say, like CNN or FoxNews.com with those ads that basically say that these other users or these users, readers were interested in this other content. And so you see some of that very kind of catchy, compelling, sometimes sensationalist ad copy there. But the idea is you bring people through to a content page, and on that content page you have links that all throughout the content to your landing to a transactional page. And so that 10-cent CPC really kind of turns into, say, $1.50 or $2. But Outbrain, all in all, for us, has almost always, been efficient, and there are great ways you can work with that. One last thing that I'll leave here on services, and I know we talked about Pardot, so keep in mind that's another thing that we recommend here. But text messaging is something that we've started to pick up on a lot more in the last 2 years. And what I mean by that is for a mobile branded experience, especially for a campaign targeting younger individuals, millennials, you might say, instead of basically trying to push someone to provide 5 or 6 different points of information on a web form, instead you could actually use just one single form that says, please input your mobile phone number, and a customer service person will reach out to you by text, to discuss your interest. And so some brands now, even smaller brands, are using these outsourced text messaging services to kind of qualify people a little bit more. I think we can all agree here, generationally, we're going more towards the era of not, being confrontational, not calling somebody directly, or even not wanting to field the phone call, right? And so how do we bridge that gap? Well, people like to text. It's not, you're not getting on the phone. It's not awkward. And a lot of people feel comfortable with that. And so that's kind of a hidden nugget or secret here that I think some service advertisers have had success with.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you text with your friends, and then if somebody can be friendly, via text, who's talking about a business or from a business, hey, that makes sense. Sort of fits in
exactly,
with
yeah.
Current, yep. Great.
Yeah,
well, I know we only have 4 or 5 more minutes here for the presentation before we get into questions, but yeah, let's keep rolling.
Okay, we'll try to go through this as fast as we can. This is probably one of the important or valuable things to know. Influencer marketing. I know that it's been the hot buzzword of the year. Big data was the buzzword of last year, of course. But I see a lot of questions fielded by smaller businesses about, well, what should I do about influencer marketing? Should I do this? Yes, if you find the right partner, yes, and you're able to structure a deal with that person to track, a specific, tracking link, dedicated link for that user, and can tie sales back to them, go for it. That makes sense. But I'm seeing a lot of brands across the industry that are blindly going into this. One major brand, I won't say any names, but they had basically paid for a single retweet by Ariana Grande in the amount of $500,000 for a retweet to promote a product, and it didn't realize the full ROI that maybe they were expecting. So I don't recommend that. It's something getting started. Maybe let your affiliate strategies or your affiliate management program start to introduce some of those opportunities. Other things that you don't want to do in Pinterest ads, I have not heard one successful campaign with Pinterest ads on a performance basis. Just don't do it. Use it for branding. You'll get a lot of organic traffic. It doesn't convert, but it's great to kind of allow people to interact with your brand. It's fun for some audiences. So definitely check that out. LinkedIn is also another one that has seen a lot of expansion and evolution over the last year. Bizzo is one of their latest acquisitions. They have an ad network, so definitely check that out if you do a lot of B2B. Snapchat, or Snap Ads, I should say, mostly branding, heavily skewed on female millennials. Don't look to it for something for performance, regardless what their minimums might be. And then other things to consider. Yahoo Search has been very difficult for us to work with, just given that they've had a lot of organizational issues, so support has been a major issue. But let it be known there's a very efficient opportunity there, low CPCs if you're able to get into there and can run a campaign. So we'll move along to some of the other key things here. I know we have a few minutes, and we'd really love to be able to address your questions here and create more of a dialogue. Just things to think about.
Section. By the way, I think this is the title of the slide and what we're going to go into, but basically it's, if I only had, this is what I'm imagining that everybody's thinking, right? If I only have one thing, if I was just to start with one thing, what would it be? And then if I was just to start with two things, what would those two things be? So that might sort of help lead you through this next section, or it might be just off the cuff.
Sure, David. Yeah.
It's
if I'm starting out from scratch, I'm building a new site. Number one is have the lights on. Ensure that you're set up for success for SEO, but understand that any new site will not have any historical data or any insights to work off of from the past. So that's what a lot of SEOs look for. If you're giving kind of an SEO a clean slate, there's only so much value that they can provide in the beginning. But as you go with more time, if you get insights from paid search, if you start to see the impact of content that you're publishing, you'll start to gather more valuable insight as you go. So number one is SEO. Okay. Make sure you're there. Number two, I'd look into paid search as the next expansion. Number three would be set up retargeting, first on display and then across channels. Number four, paid social, Facebook ads. And then from there, I think you have your core. You'll figure out at that point, based on a conservative testing plan, where else to expand after that.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So basically, one, have a website that's optimized, right, and then drive people to that website, right, so that they can actually find your products and book services with you or pay for whatever things you're offering. And then people who do show up, it sounds like follow them around the web a little bit, remind them that you're there, instead of just a one-stop shop. They get to see you again, and then drive sort of the social engagement side, which makes a lot of sense, which takes people deeper into your brand, lets them know sort of what you're about and sort of who you are. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, David, I think that summarizes that very well.
Perfect. So I know we have a bunch of questions here as well. Right before we get into the questions, and by the way, this is incredibly valuable, and I want to say one other thing that I know that we're going to do, you have an opportunity for people to follow up with you to ask more questions, etc. So we're gonna let you know how to do that. Right before we jump into the questions and answers that you guys have, we're going to I'd love to share just a little bit. I know, Mike, you're a PaySimple customer as well, but I just wanted to let people know how to integrate, if you were to want to integrate PaySimple into the landscape. How does that work? So essentially, if you're going to drive people to your website, you're going to want to have a way for them to pay you on the spot, right? Because the longer people delay between seeing you and getting to buy from you is the higher risk of loss of sale. So basically what sort of the payments aspect does, and what PaySimple specializes in, is essentially allows people to either sign up with a web payment form for one of your services, to build an online store for you, so you can really create the predictable revenue and the sort of capturing the opportunities of when people come. So actually, we have a free trial. If any of those of you who are interested, like, hey, I've got to check out this PaySimple thing because I want people to be able to pay me once they land on my website, or you can send them a form via email or whatever to have them pay right on the spot. We do have paysimple.com/free trial for a 14-day free trial, no commitments, no credit cards, meaning you don't have to put in a credit card or anything, just to get to experience what PaySimple is all about. So we'll start the question and answer here in just a second. Mike, anything you wanted to add? I know, again, you're a PaySimple customer. What are your thoughts on what the platform has done for you before we dive into the Q&A?
Yeah, great question. So we've used PaySimple since the beginning. About half of our billables right now with credit card billing go through that. It's pretty intuitive. I used it in the beginning. Our controller took it over, and he's managing it now. So as far as invoice, control and management goes, very easy to use like that. With other reporting functions, things like that. The value is certainly there. So we've been very happy with it. And obviously we'll be around for a while. So
cool, great. So again, if you want to check out the free trial, it's paysimple.com/free trial, 14 days. We are going on to the Q&A. So here was one of the questions, Mike. This was on the retargeting platforms. The question was, where were the two retargeting platforms that you talked about? One was Amobi, and then the other one was ...
Yeah. So so that may have been. So Amobi was listed on the online video slide, and that's. So Amobi and Undertone are two other key publishers to consider if you're looking for additional reach outside of YouTube. There are minimums to know about that, but they're pretty easy to work with.
Great. Here's another one. My business is being a publisher, selling out-of-home and inventory to national brands. The sales cycle is relatively long and relationship-driven. Might you have suggestions for business-to-business sales versus consumer sales? And does that include LinkedIn, or what is the best practice around those for where to put your spending? And then will there be a discussion on CRM platforms was the other one. So any thoughts on being a business-to-business sort of vendor?
Yeah. I think there are a few different questions there to kind of break down. But one would be, yes, for CRMs in the discussion here. We talked about using Salesforce and Salesforce Pardot for automation. We did think that is more, even from our own experience, more of a fit. For medium-sized to enterprise-level businesses. We're very encouraged by the recent changes by HubSpot over the last year. I think that it has addressed a lot of the concern in the HubSpot community with regards to technical issues and bugs that people had complained about, and support issues. So, I definitely think HubSpot's worth considering. And check out some of the inbound conference content from this year as well if you'd like to see more on that. As far as CRM and B2B campaigns are concerned, the best practice always is to ensure that for any tracking links that you're using, that you're say using the respective campaign source IDs or publisher IDs that'll pass through with a web form or an order form that is on your site. You want to ensure that that'll give you the ability not just to blindly input a lead or or an inquiry to your CRM platform, but it'll allow your CRM platform to kind of keep that that stamp, or that breadcrumb, however you want to call it, all the way from the beginning, from when you're first engaging with that customer, all the way to the sale.
Perfect.
I think that's the highest level answer I could give right now.
Yeah. No, that was good. Yeah, we definitely can tell that you know your stuff. Like, there is no question. Like, you could talk for days. I can just hear it. It's great. Here's another one. Yeah. How could you leverage Facebook to increase your presence? So essentially, the person says, I'm a service company that is only Googled when someone needs me. Right, so I imagine it's hey, I have this problem or whatever. How can I leverage Facebook to target customers who meet my target and may need my services?
That's interesting. So I mean, I understand the pull and push kind of leanings here that you're thinking that perhaps only search is really a fit. The big thing that maybe that you're not doing right now that you could be is getting a better sense of the audience that you're building up on your site, current visitors. That's what we call your first-party data. You can use that, of course, like we said, with retargeting across different channels, like on Facebook. But I think what you really need is audience discovery and expansion, which is a fancy way of saying to test lookalike modeling or similar audiences. So you can basically kind of copy, like we were talking about with the hair product example, pick up, the lookalike audience will kind of pick up on the traits and characteristics of your audience and try to find people that are similar with similar interests. And so that's been a great driver of growth for many brands we work with.
Perfect. Excellent. Here's another one from Robert. He says, regarding SEO, how often do I publish new content? And then what is the link building?
Okay. So I'd like to introduce real quick Matt Hill, who our Director of SEO and Earned Media. He'll speak to that real quick.
Hi. Great question. I think content, when any brand wants to invest in content up front, it's always an exciting aspect because I think that's the hardest part, getting over the whole hurdle of content creation. I would say, frankly, just the first thing you want to really focus on is creating a content calendar. How often you create content really just should revolve around particular promotions that you may be having, whether it be seasonal or events particular to your brand. Ideally, if a site is first starting out, some people say it's good to maybe create content every day. It really you want to get a feel for your audience and how they're engaging. A good way to test that would be maybe sharing some of that content on your social channels to see how much and how often they're engaging. But I'd say for a new site, I would say relatively often, once every couple days, once a week. I really think that it's more important. As your site and your brand grows recognition, you could probably table off the content creation on a more steady basis.
Got it. So kind of engage them is what I heard in all of that, and make sure you have a calendar to keep your sort of content flowing. We just, as one logistic, we would love to answer your questions. We are running out of time. However, here's the great part. Our team will reach out to you if you post a question in the lower left-hand corner and we don't get to it today. We will give you answers. Our team will reach out to you. So make sure to put your questions in there. Here's another one, and it might be the last one. Is retargeting search or retargeting social typically more important to start in as far as spending goes, like where do your dollars best land? Retargeting search or retargeting social?
That's a really good question. Retargeting for search, it does have limits on volume, so I would certainly caveat with that. I should clarify, both, are all limited to just how much first-party data that you have, and then secondly, the extent at which do you want to bid for higher placement, greater visibility across networks. Don't bid blindly, of course. You want to bid with regard to how you convert and what your back-end goal would be. But between search and social, search is probably it's a little bit more complex in its setup, but also in the ways that you kind of manipulate it and change the way you target audiences, first and third party. For social, the setup's a little bit more straightforward. I would break out social on different platforms like Facebook, Rail, Newsfeed, Instagram, Messenger, and so on and so forth. Break that all differently so you know by device, platform, and so on and so forth where you're going.
Perfect.
But it's about the same, I'd say.
Okay. So here's the last thing, right? Each business, here's what I think. Each business has to answer the question, where do I start? Given my business, where do I go? And I know you have a great option for people to find you or to ask those questions, to spend some time with your team. It's a free consultation. If you would, just share a couple sentences about that, just so people can find you and find how to go deeper if they resonated with the content and basically want to know, how do I apply it to me?
Yeah. Thanks, David. So, obviously, we only had an hour here, but I wanted to, extend an offer here, of course, to everybody who's attended. Whether you're with PaySimple or you're not, we're very happy to set up free consultations here. The team prepares, second opinions, free audits, however you want it to define that. But I would say, send us an email. You can send an email to info@magnitudedigital.com. Just mention the webinar. We'll be happy to set up time with you. And if taking a step further, if you think that Magnitude is a fit for you, we're happy to waive the setup in the beginning. So it's something that awesome. We're offering to everybody here.
That's great. Awesome. Mike, you are just a veritable wealth of information. It's like, it's a little bit like, since Thanksgiving is coming up, it's like a veritable cornucopia of information. It's just like you can pick out anything and go deep on it. I just love it. So thank you so much for spending the time with us. It's great. For those of you who are already PaySimple customers, look for ways that you can integrate this information for driving people to where they can buy on the spot. If you're not a PaySimple customer and you want to check out what is this PaySimple thing also, go to paysimple.com/free trial or to paysimple.com/blog, and we have a lot of other content on there as well. For now, this is all we can pack into the hour that we have together, so thank you so much for being here with us and for investing your time and for growing your business. PaySimple really believes that small businesses are the future of the economy, and data supports that as well. It's the backbone of the economy as it is today. So thanks for all the great work that you do with people. And Mike, once again, thanks so much for sharing all the great content today.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you, PaySimple.
All right.